Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. All right, everybody, welcome to another weekly wrap up, and happy Easter if you celebrate Easter, and happy Sunday if you don't. I am a hot mess this morning. I'll just fully admit it. I have not been sleeping super great this week, and it's my own fault. Absolutely. I'm not doing any of the things to help me sleep that I should, but it just starts to catch up with me. And it is always a bit funny to me that the last 2 nights I've slept really well, but I've felt more tired than ever when I'm waking up because there's that sleep debt that I feel like will never escape. But you know, that's how it goes. But we have some wonderful books to talk about today, and I can't wait to get into them with you. Yeah, some really, really good ones. Nothing, honestly, that was bad. So, it's a pretty positive week anyway. Still drinking some of my coffee, by the way, so don't mind me. But, yes, let me address the purple in the room. I did get my hair touched up finally. Yes, I do use a dark violet hair dye. It's Revlon. It's Revlon's deep violet is literally what it's called. And most of the time people think my hair just looks red, which I mean, it does, because once you wash this dark violet color 4 times, it doesn't look the same, right? So this is that 2-week window where it's super vibrant and my pictures look amazing and it makes me look more fair-skinned and, you know, milky, smooth whiteness that I already possess, you know. Plus that's a filter. As I said, your cameras are amazing things, and it very much helps with my self-image to see myself looking fine all the time. But yeah, this is the 2-week period where I'm just oh, it's so pretty. I wish I was willing to touch it up all the time, but I'm not, you know. So yeah, this week was good. It really flew by. I'm really loving the new camera. I hope you guys are. I personally think the sound is crisper than before. The new microphone on this one is really nice. I don't use any additional type of things. I actually don't like how sound sounds when there's additional stuff added, at least for me. I really don't enjoy mouth sounds, and I make a lot of them myself. I do. And it's something I learned when using a microphone for a while. Maybe someday I'll try and actually get a more expensive one and use one of the ones people clip on them, but I just haven't. This is good. You know, I'm just talking about the books. I'm not doing voiceovers or anything fancy, so there we be. But let's get into it with first some welcoming of some channel members. We have quite a few newbies here, so thank you very much to Nicole A. So I don't know how to pronounce this one. Suvidan, The Bookish Boutique, Read with Dr. B, April, and Paige are all new channel members. So welcome all of you. We have a couple faded friends. Most of them are romantic renegades. I'm so thankful to have you. All of you help me be able to do what I'm doing. And as I have shared, I just hit 24K, and my goal is to get to 25K by the end of the year. We'll see if that happens. Growth definitely has plateaued. That happens. And as I have said, I'm pretty happy with where I'm sitting. Of course, everyone wants more. It's just true, we do. However, I've seen how uncomfortable it can get when you get too much attention, because, you know, the more people following you, the more opinions that you have to listen to, right? And I'm not, you know, the best at taking that, you know? I like talking about books. I don't like talking about all the other stuff at all. And that gets me in trouble for not talking about stuff as much as it does the things I do. And I'd rather my controversial opinions be around, you know, different types of kinky things that I'm reading in books than about other things, because this is my escapism. So I, of course, you know, want to hit those bigger numbers like so many do. But in the romance booktube area, it's very unlikely to happen. But also, I am 7 years in I actually just had my 7-year anniversary, April 10th. I think April 8th is when I uploaded it, but yeah, just this past month, it was my 7-year anniversary. And so trajectory, it says by my 10-year, I should cross 50K if things continue. But I'm okay with that, truly. It can sound like lip service when someone says that, because yes, we want to do better. We want to make money at this, you know, even people who aren't doing it full time. Of course, you want to make a little bit of money doing the thing that you love the most. But anytime I've had something get really big, and for me, really big means the few videos I have that have like over 20K or something, right? There's like 10 of them in my whole catalog of thousands at this point. You get more and more negativity that comes with it. And I would rather sit where I'm at now, have the patrons and the channel members and the viewers that I have now who are all here because they like how I talk about books. Like, sorry I went on this side tangent, but we don't have as many books as normal to talk about. So I can prevaricate for a little bit if I'd like to. And I'd rather have those people who watch me, who genuinely are watching for my opinions on books, who want to see me succeed, who want to, you know, just stay in our little bubble of that, you know, like, yeah, it is true. They say like more money, more problems. And, you know, not that we all wouldn't like to have more in our pockets these days. But one of the things I am always humbled by, and, you know, not that I need to be kept in my place, but as I would say, like, keeps me content where I'm at, is that I exist 100%. Okay, not 100% now, because I do work for an author and I do that, but 90% I exist on the generosity and for the entertainment of others. It's true. And so that is part of the reason, if you guys don't know, why I do truly try to keep it all about the books, why I try to keep it positive, maybe a little sassy. I'm not saying I don't, you know, I'm not saying I don't, but that is why I choose to keep it that, because I know how desperately I want to just escape into my books. And I don't think that makes us weak or makes us bad or any of that. And I'm just very humbled by where I'm at. And if what I'm providing is what people want, and obviously it is, or my rent wouldn't be paid if it wasn't, yes, I could wish to have double what I have and to finally get debt paid off and to be able to live in a nicer apartment or all those things. I already feel like it's a lot, you know? So, anywho, that was 10 minutes of that. Welcome so much to the new supporters. And you who are watching this, you're supporting me too. So if you would give this video a like, if you'll comment as I talk about these books, about ones you're interested in or not, please do that. It really does help. As I share, and I'll continue to, I've had some of my postings have been a little wonky, first with my back injury back in, man, when was this now? The end of February. It was the end of February, or was it in the middle of March? I don't even remember, but it was a while back there. I got off on my schedule and I still haven't gotten back to where I was at. And then with my phone issue, I missed one video and it messes with everything. And there's already people who aren't seeing me in their feed. Like, people ask, like, did you stop? And I was like, honeys, I've put out 4 videos a week literally for almost 7 years now. If you're not seeing them, it's not because I stopped. Again, in general, only having missed 2 video uploads in the past, like, you know, quite a while. So, yeah, please make sure you're still subscribed if you want to be here. And if you don't, that's fine too. Nobody's forcing you, but support what I do here is very helpful. Okay, let's get into what I read. So the first book that I finished was Tell Me It's Wrong by Katie Wismer. And this is a fellow YouTuber, used to be a fellow booktuber. She's now an author tuber. And I have followed her in the periphery for a long time. I actually used to watch her a lot more when she was still a booktuber. But I always love to bring this up because one of the things that I really appreciate about her And honestly, I don't know if I've told you guys this. There are a lot of creators who've inspired me through the years. And she's actually someone who inspired me to be very open about like the process of getting to monetization. And with my patrons, at least I've shared my business reports a few times. I actually didn't end up doing that this year. Maybe that will have to be one of my bonus videos for Patreon, because I've done it in the past. Like, it's not anything I want to hide. I just think it's also very interesting to share, because I do see myself as, though I am a sole proprietor, I am also like built up of members or board members, as it were, and I have some producers and things like that. But anyway, sidetrack. See, my brain is just a funny place to be. Maybe we need some more coffee in there. But anyway, I was very much looking forward to this book from her. This is book 2 in a contemporary series she's writing that's called Sweet Spire, I believe is the series name. And book 1 was all right. I didn't find it anything super special, like just being honest. But there was a tease of what this book was going to be. And you know, while I was reading book 1, I was like, oh, this is okay. I don't know if I'll want to read more contemporary from her. But I haven't read her like paranormal vampire series yet, though I have definitely thought about reading those ones. But the tease for this one was that it was stepmom's or ex-stepmom. Okay, how do I say it? Best friend's ex-stepmom. There we go. Or stepson's best friend. That's how we say it. So we have Christine, who is now a young-ish single mom. I wouldn't say she's super young. Why am I saying youngish? Because this is an older woman romance. I don't know. But the hero is only like 23, so maybe that's why. Because I think she's only like 32, 33, because I think she's 10 years older. And she was the stepmom of Liam from book 1. And that is what really led me to be interested in this, because Liam doesn't get along with his dad, but he also doesn't hate his stepmom. And he has a younger half-brother that is, you know, his stepmom's kid. And I believe he's only like 8 or 9. Really sweet little boy. And so Liam and Christine are in a pretty good like thing. It's not like they're besties or anything, but he definitely feels more for her in the divorce than he did for his dad, because his dad is kind of this wealthy tool basically, who him and Christine just aren't working anymore. And he's a bit controlling, but possessive of his younger wife, you know, and just really didn't spend any time or care anymore. And she's just exhausted by that. Like, she got herself a wealthy man. She did that whole thing. And she's feeling really empty. And so now at the beginning of this book, she's divorced. It's actually her first like weekend away from her son, because she's had to leave him with the dad, who the dad doesn't even really want time with his son. He just knows that legally he's supposed to have the kid for how many, you know, days a month or whatever. But then her son gets handed off to a nanny, which that would just be so hard, because like she's been the main caretaker for her son. They had a nanny to help at different times, but now she's like a single mom and having to hand her kid off to a nanny when like I don't know, that's messed up. So the beginning of this book finds her at a dive bar in town getting drunk, because it's a lot. And one of the bartenders, it turns out, is actually Liam's friend. And through some flirty flirt and some fun things, these two have a one-night stand. And they don't know who each other is. Then there is a skateboard camp that Fletcher is his name. Fletcher and Liam are putting on for some kids. They're going to do this like skateboard camp. And he wants his little brother, like Liam wants his little brother to be a part of it. And Christine is like, sure, that sounds good. I need to kind of be like looking for a job or like doing stuff anyway. And when she brings her son to the skateboard camp, Fletcher is the one leading it. And now she knows who Fletcher is. And so it's not even that she's super worried about what Liam would think about her. It's that this town is already judging her enough, and she doesn't want to make things harder on her son or on herself. And she only meant to have a one-night stand with this Fletcher guy anyway. So now we're in a classic situation where it's like, we've had this super hot night together. We know that we're very sexually compatible, but we can't do anything about it. because it would be a bad thing to do something about it. But what made this book work so well for me is that Fletcher is such a cool dude. So he has a pretty rough past himself. He was in foster care at one point. He now has like an adopted family that he's very close with. He's very close with Liam. He does a few different jobs, right? Like he does some construction as well as doing the bartending, and he's just this really great guy. And so he doesn't want to pressure Christine into anything, but he does pretty early on like admit to Liam, because Liam's like, what's going on between you two? And he's like, oh, I met her when she came in to have a drink and we didn't know who each other was. And so Liam clocks it pretty quickly, right? And he's like, well, be good to her because she deserves it. So anyway, this whole book just felt very mature, okay? Christine was not written childish. She wasn't written as like spoiled or wanting to keep him a secret for any other reason than she's tired of people gossiping about her. She doesn't want her son to have to deal with whispers being said about him and things like that. And it's tough in a small town, you know? It is. But Fletcher is such a kind guy, and he loves her son. And at one point, one of his foster sisters from back when he was a teenager and she was a younger girl, like she is aging out and doesn't know what to do with herself now that she's aging out of the foster system. And so we get to see his interactions with her. So yeah, this was just really great. I know I kind of just like bounced all over the place with it. The romance is great in here. It really was all the other stuff that made it really work for me. Like truly. And that's kind of why I've mentioned all of those things, because there's just such interesting dynamics, and none of the things that you thought would be the drama are the drama, which again, I don't want to spoil any of that because I think this was really good. And I have not seen a soul talk about this book. Okay. I only know about it because I follow Katie. And as I've said, I haven't really been interested in her vampire ones. I've seen them, but I haven't been that interested. And when she started writing Small Town Contemporary, I was like, I want to read this. But I have not seen a soul read these. And again, book one was good. That was fine. But this one was really good. And you can jump right into this book. Like, truly, you can. Anything you need to know about Liam and his girl, it gets reiterated in this one. And maybe once you read this one, you'll be more interested in Liam's book. But I really liked this. And I was probably a little more generous to it for that reason, because I haven't seen anyone else talk about it. So I would give this like a 4.5, 5. And it's about a 3 in the spice scale. There were some fun, spicy things in here, but yet, that's what I wanted to talk about. Because this is one of those scenarios where there's one night stand. So they have a really hot encounter with each other. They're both a little bit tipsy during it, but really great stuff, sharing what they like about, sex with each other. But then it has a slow burn after that because of who they are to each other. I meant to say that. So they have really great sexual tension for the rest of their story. And it really is Fletcher trying to woo her over. Because he's trying to prove that though he may be younger than her, he still can be committed, and he really likes her kid, and that this is going to be okay. And so I meant to say that to give a tease, she wrote their relationship so good. And between the found family stuff, and again, there is a small suspense element to this. But as I alluded to, it isn't because of any of the things you might think. And so I like that. I think she handled that really well. So yeah, I gave it 5 stars, 3 on the spice scale. There is some trigger warnings for a death of a child in the past. One of the characters is, I don't want to tell you who it is. One of the characters has nightmares about a child dying. You'll see why when you read this. She does have very, very detailed trigger warnings on her website, by the way. But just the main ones for me were death of a child. Also kind of neglectful parent, and also stuff to do with the foster care system that may be triggering for some people. But really, okay, then I read 7 of Hearts by Maggie Gates. This was a new to me author, but I got the audio from Must Love Audio. And this one was narrated by Alex Knox and Nikki Gray in dual format. I don't believe I've heard either of them before. New to me for sure. And this is a best friend's brother and a wedding hookup. So these two, they've known each other most of their lives. Our hero, Logan, was actually basically raised by his older sister and her like boyfriend slash fiance slash husband through the years, because this family, their parents went to prison when they were young for drug dealing. They were doing drug dealing pills and stuff, and actually a kid in Logan's school died of an overdose from that, and that is why his parents ended up getting arrested and put in prison. So his parents are in prison, and so he has like, he's very like strict in the way he lives his life. He's very controlled. Because of that, he felt very out of control as a kid. And it is interesting too, because his life, like they weren't like really abused by their parents. Like literally was these parents kept this kind of a secret. But the older sister, she then became their guardian. And I think there was the 2 younger siblings or 3. I don't remember off the top of my head what there were. But we get these shades of the fact that she was with a man who was willing to not only take her on, but take on these siblings, and not only siblings, but almost like children. And that was just really beautiful coloring to the whole thing. This is the first book by Maggie Gates I've ever read. It didn't appear to be a part of a series, but it's gotta be. You know, it's one of those where if you've read Maggie Gates, please tell me if the sister story is one of the other ones, but the color that's given to this, there's no way she hasn't written that couple's story of this woman becoming the guardian to these kids, and then like her, like I won't believe it, because if she hasn't written that, she's made a mistake, because I need to read it, right? But anyway, so in this story though, one of Logan's siblings, his sister, she is getting married, and so this starts at a wedding, and he is of course there for it. And then the maid of honor is Leah, and she's actually bisexual and recently got out of a long-term relationship with a woman, and this woman didn't want to have children with her, and she wanted to get married and start settling down, and this other woman didn't want to do that. And so she's kind of coming off of that, and now she's at this wedding, helped her friend get it ready, and her and Logan end up hooking up, and this is an accidental pregnancy. Now, it of course annoys me a bit because it doesn't take long for Logan to find out. I will say that, like, we kind of skip ahead a bit to him finding out when he comes home for like his birthday, and she's very sick during it. And so his sister is saying like, oh, she couldn't make it, she's sick. And he wants to stop by to see her because he overhears them say like, oh, she's pregnant. We don't know who the father is. And they even say like, oh, she's like 7 weeks. And he's like, oh my God, that's me. So he finds out not from her. Whether or not she would have ended up telling him, we'll never know, because he finds out. But it did irk me a tad in the start, because he very clearly likes to live in the city. He doesn't want to be reminded too much of his parents and like being home and everything, even though he's the only one of his siblings who does still speak with the mother, at least. He still talks with her from prison sometimes. But he finds out and stops by, and she's like, well, I wasn't going to tell you because you know, this would ruin your plan, and you know, you don't want to do anything wrong because of like, you know, how things were with your parents and yada, yada, yada. And he's like, yeah, but I would have wanted to know this. And so he doesn't react perfectly to start with, because he's very overwhelmed by all of it, which again, she did that to him. That is something that will always annoy me, is when a woman like specifically doesn't try to tell, but then he freaks out a tad, and then she's like, oh, he won't want anything to do with the baby. And I'm like, bitch, how did you react when you found out? Anyway, he reacts very well. He really does. And I ended up really liking this one. And I really liked how, you know, they have such a connection through their families, and her family and his family are extremely close, and they all are so excited about this baby coming to be, and there was just so many good things about it that I really kind of got over that. And it's one of those books where the author chose to have him find out the way he did so that the heroine doesn't have to agonize over it, you know? And she is only at 7 weeks when he finds out, and I feel like it's one of those where she would have told him, but we'll never know, because the only thing we see is her saying like, well, I'm going to have this baby no matter what, and I don't want to hear what he has to say, when it's like, this is your friend's brother, he's also your friend, aren't you going to tell him? You know, anyway, you guys are fully aware about how my feelings are about that. Like, you guys know by now. But that is something that was tough in the beginning, but I love the found family. I loved how, honestly too, I love the pregnant sex in this one, how it was handled. There is a scene specifically, you guys, it's so beautiful, where she's like putting body butter on, and like stretch mark cream, which if you have been pregnant or have a loved one who has been, you've probably seen one of these. And he literally like rubs it on her tummy. It's so cute. She's feeling really ugly. And so he like literally sits her on his lap and like rubs this on her belly. And it was so sweet. Yes, it leads to some sexy stuff too, but in that moment, it's just him, like, he wants to do all the things he can to take care of her, and I love it. So I was won over by him, and because this was an ALC, I did rind it. I did rind it on up to a 5, but I gave it 4.5. And it's a 2.5, 3 on the spice scale, and this does have trigger warnings for, previous, like, drugs situation, a parent in prison, and some parental neglect. Okay, then I listened to an ALC from Lena Hendricks of Just Say Yes, which is the final book in the King family series, all right? From what we know, our last book in Out of Towner, we'll see. I didn't really get the hints of who else it could be. I'm sure it'll still be connected because all of her series have been connected, but I don't know. We'll have to see. But this one was MJ and another Logan, actually. It was kind of funny because I went from Logan to Logan in here. And then the next book I'm going to talk about, the hero's name was Lincoln. So I was like, wow, this is just a lot of L names happening at once. But this one, we have the ex-rugby player, or no, he's currently a rugby player. An ex-Olympian, like he was a Olympic rugby player. Which, is it really ex-Olympian? Like, he still is, and, it's not like he's 30 years removed from it, but this was really cool. And by the way, I love this model, okay? I was talking with Big Sis, Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life, that mustaches are like a thing for me. And they have not gotten the respect that they deserve. They're called, like, mustaches, they're so made fun of and everything, but I have a thing for this gritty look that he's got going on, okay? I do. I love this model. Mostly, too, because this book stands out as so, like, different. Though there have been some cowboy romances that have had the stash going on. Not many. And there should be more, just saying. But anyway, we saw in a previous book, if you've read it, that he came into one of the places she was at, and there was this weird tension, and her brothers were kind of like, what's going on? She's like, nothing. But how she meets him for the first time, we find out now in this. And so MJ actually works at the like assisted living place that previously the father of the Sullivans was. He's now in kind of like a like private home, but it's still very close to there. But Logan's grandfather is there. Now, he's not really struggling with any like mental issues or like dementia or anything. It's a home that is comfortable for him, because Logan's mom, I think it's his mom, isn't really wanting to like take care of him, and Logan has the money to do it, and so he does. And his granddad actually really likes it there. He likes having the ladies be around. He likes Out of Towner. He likes being there. And what's also cool is he's actually friends with the Sullivan's dad as well, and so he will go and visit him sometimes. and they'll just have a great time together. So there was lots of like, oh, I got all the warm and fuzzies. But MJ works there. So she's a nurse who works there. And in the beginning of this, Logan's grandpa has asked her to dinner, to come and have dinner with him. And she's agreed. And she's actually dressed up a little bit to just make him feel special. And so she goes to have dinner with him on one of the nights she's not working. And this granddad has also invited Logan there. And let's just say that Logan gets a wrong impression because MJ, something has dropped under the table and her dress rips when she's down there. And so when Logan comes in, there's this hot chick climbing out from under the table by his grandpa's legs with a ripped dress. So Logan's like, Grandpa, you can't hire hookers anymore. And MJ, of course, is extremely offended. And the thing is, Logan's grandpa is a shit stirrer, so he doesn't correct him fast enough. And MJ is just like, F you, dude. And so she hikes out of there. So Logan knows that he screwed up. But the thing is, again, this is something his grandpa, like, would do. So it's not like it's completely out of the realm for him to assume that, you know. But anyway, he ends up making it up to her and he really wants to take her out. But the thing is, he's still pretty committed to his career and still playing rugby and hopefully wants to get back on a team that will go to the Olympics again. And MJ is 29 and she, you know, is looking for a family possibly and not to be the like side piece of a rugby player. But, and of course she also has very protective brothers and, you know, adopted brothers in a way too, because, you know, the Sullivans all look out for her as well. So she's got quite the wall of beefy men around her. But there is also a cool thing because I actually have the one over here, but the hero from One Look is a football coach, right? So he's also kind of eyeing Logan up and saying like, what do you want to do when you're done playing? Like, maybe you want to help the next generation get into it or whatever. So there is possibilities we see floating around of things that Logan could do, right? So this was a beautiful relationship between them, you know, of dating and getting to know one another. And MJ has some insecurities from being kind of mistreated sexually previously, not abusive, just bad interactions, we'll just say. And the final kind of like struggle for this relationship is that they discover that the only man that she's had sex with who was, you know, it was not a good experience is actually Logan's friend. So this is a best friend's ex-girlfriend. And I won't explain how he knows the guy or how close they are or what it is. But let's just say it's enough that MJ is pretty uncomfortable that he's like really close friends with this dude. And so we'll have to see that get dealt with. But I listened to this in dual format. It was narrated by CJ Bloom and Ryan Hudson. I'm really becoming a fan of Ryan Hudson. Okay, I want to say this too. The way that this cover model looks, that is totally the voice I was getting out of Ryan Hudson. So he did an excellent job. And we know CJ Bloom. I'm a huge fan of her. She was fantastic. So love. So yeah, I honestly had nothing against this one. I had a great time listening to this. I definitely teared up a few times. And I mean, I know Lena Hendricks isn't done writing by any means. She just hasn't announced what the next one will be. But I love being a part of her ARC and ALC team. And I loved this so much. I did give it 5 stars. I told you it was a good week. Okay. It was a good week. This was a 2.5 on the spice scale. And it was a really like slow burn between them. This one was really good. And I still think that, oh shoot, now I can't remember it, but the one with the tattoo artist is probably my favorite one with the black cat hair one. What is that? I have the book, Just Between Us. I was like, I have the book over here. Just Between Us is probably still my favorite, but this was very close. And because it was the last book in a series, we get to see all of the wives of her brothers and her like nephew and all those things are there too, which is great. Okay, then I, of course, had a Noelle Adams that I read this week. You guys know the drill. I did put out my Claire Kent deep dive, which I know not everyone cares, but that video has been highly requested for a long time, and the algorithm is not sending it to people. The deep dives, I understand it's tough because listening to a whole video about one author, if you don't think it's an author you're going to like, you won't get it. But if you're one of the people who's interested in Claire Kent, I did do a deep dive. I talk about every book that the Claire Kent pen name has out. So definitely go check that out. I will link it up here if you want to see it. But Wrong Wedding is one of the Noelle Adams titles that I have not read. And it is a marriage of convenience, but it's very interesting. So this one is kind of an interesting setup. I will say that. Because a lot of them are, you know, they're all like arranged marriages. She writes a lot of those. But specifically this whole series, that's what this one is. But in this one we have Summer and Lincoln. Now, Lincoln is the older brother of Carter, and Carter is her best friend, who she is actually set to marry at the beginning of this to help because the father had died, and there's something to do with like his money being like locked away, or maybe it was gone, I don't know. But she actually has a trust fund that was left to her by, I think it was her aunt or her grandma, I don't quite remember. And she can actually share some of that with him if they get married. It's like locked up, I think, until a certain age or until she's married, one of those ones. And so she's going to marry him to help with it. And before they find out more about this, they need to go to the reading of the will for the dad. And it turns out that like the business was actually left to like Lincoln instead, which makes no sense because Lincoln doesn't want the business, but it was left to him instead. Although I will say the more you read into the story, you maybe know why it was left to Lincoln instead. Not going to spoil anything. But through a few hoops we have to jump over, I won't lie. I mean, that is what it is when there's marriage of convenience in a contemporary story, you know. But Summer can only share it with the person she's married to, I guess. So all of that being said, and Lincoln isn't able to just pass the business to his brother either. So what happens then is Summer and Lincoln end up getting married, and that's where the wrong wedding part came. Now, again, there's a few things you got to jump through to get into it. But what I enjoyed, because, right, I was doing the content pull for this, which means I'm finding really good quotes and snagging all those things. Lincoln is one of the naughtiest boys that I've read from Noelle in a while, okay? Like, he is a naughty boy. The dirty talk, oh my word. And it's great because from the beginning, like, they don't have a sex deal, the two of them. Quite a few books that she writes, they usually do. But he is like, you know, I'm happy to do my husbandly duty. And they're just over and over again, he's just teasing her with that until she finally cracks. And it's really, really good. But he has such a dirty mouth. And I was like, Noelle, girl, when I was highlighting these, it was fun. So yeah, I don't rate the books that I read for Noelle or Claire, but this is one to give it a go. The books in this series are ones she has available on her website in a pack, or else, I mean, of course you can buy them on Amazon. I'll have a link. But if you're going to buy the ebook, might as well buy it from her site instead of from Amazon. Helps cut out the middleman, and you actually own any of books that you purchase directly from an author, not just her. Whereas with Amazon, you are purchasing a license to use the book, right? Okay. Just a couple left here. So then we have His Juliet by Amelia Rossi. I received the ARC for this one, and I was so excited. And I did pre-order the next book from her because the beautiful copy that will like match His Tesoro. So this is the next book in her Dark Mafia series. The first one having been a really popular one and one that I have not shut up about. I talk about it all the time. I'll be talking about it more when the Mafia Romance Readathon comes in just a little bit here. But this is the next book in that. And this one is about Romeo and Juliet, which, yes, there are multiple jokes made. But I will also say this is also have aspects of a retelling of that. And so this will also work for the readathon for the retelling prompt, because there are two warring families. There are multiple fake death fake outs. There is even a point where our Romeo is pretty sure she's dead and he's going to take out everyone else and himself type of thing. So not to get any more specific than that because I want you to enjoy it, but this one will count as a retelling, okay? This absolutely will count as a Romeo and Juliet, like reimagined, retelling, whatever. Because retellings aren't aren't just for the fairy tales, by the way. Like for me, I'm like, if it's a Pretty Woman retelling or like the Overboard, you know, like those ones, that's what I consider. Anywho, sidetrack for the Mafia Romance Readathon. This one, the way that these two meet is, so Juliet is actually agoraphobic. She is either in her apartment or in the bookstore that she works, or she gets bagels at nearby. Otherwise, she has like groceries delivered and she doesn't go anywhere. She is agoraphobic. And she is doing inventory at the bookstore, and Romeo ends up needing to hide out there. And he does, in the beginning, use force to stop her from calling the police or from escaping. And they end up spending a good part of the night sitting on the floor in the bookstore talking. They end up just talking, and they become, like, Romeo becomes obsessed with her because that's what we love to see. And it leads to him finding excuses to go back to the bookstore, coming to see her every day, walking her home from work, and they slowly get to know one another. Now, he realizes that he needs to distance himself because she doesn't know anything about the mafia world, doesn't know anything about that life, and he very much wants to protect her from that. But A, it might be too late. People might already know. B, she may be unknowingly more connected with some things than he thinks she is. And C, he wants her so much, how's he going to stay away from her anyway? So, yeah. In the same way, let me see how I say this. In the same way that there was, like, so much about his tesoro that I really loved, and then, like, the third act got a little bit wonky, this, to me, isn't quite as wonky as that one got. Like, just being honest. Because I think that the groundwork is laid. And I don't think that the characters acted out of character the way that I stand by to this day. And you guys know, because I love it. I still talk about it all the time. I don't think that the heroine, at the end of his tesoro, follows the character that we've seen set up to that point. I don't believe it didn't work that way for me. But in this one, though there are some over-the-top things that either the character might do, I think that it is very much set up in the character that they would do that. Let's see. But the third act does get crazy. And I refer back to what I said, that there is more about this that reminds you of Romeo and Juliet than you will think. You know, maybe having to do with family rivalries. Just that Juliet may not be aware at the start how she would play into a Romeo and Juliet type family rivalry. Okay? Okay? I don't want to say more than that, but I hope I'm alluding to there is a reason I'm saying they're alike, and not just because their names are Romeo and Juliet, which, yes, the author is aware. Yes, the characters are aware, and they tease each other about it. She honestly doesn't believe that that's his name in the beginning, which is cute because he says, or she says her name first, and he's like, shut up. It was so like, he's like, my name is Romeo, and she's like, you're lying. And he's like, I'm not. And it's funny because later on in the book, she's having like a panic attack. She's like, I don't even know your name. And he's like, my name is Romeo. I don't know what to tell you. So that was a good one. Because she's like, do I even know you? And he's like, no, that's actually my name. We're fated to be together. So it was beautiful in that way. Now, the author puts very detailed trigger warnings for this one. I will tell you a few of the main ones, as I like to do. But she goes into it much further. But this has pretty serious instances of self-harm. Also the agoraphobia. Also, you know, trauma to a child. Also, sex trafficking is one of the main themes because that is what they're fighting against in this one. Okay? They're fighting against that in this one. And it is kind of the main thing that Romeo and Matteo are like trying to get to the bottom of the sex trafficking trade that's happening through their city, and they're not okay with it. But you're going to see that pop up. So those are some of the main ones. Like I said, the self-harm is it's a serious one. So if you actually struggle with hurting yourself at all, that's a problem. and you're going to be triggered by that, like this is not going to be a good one for you. But if you want the specifics of it, the author has the link to her website where she'll tell you what the thing is, right? Because that can be helpful to know. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I gave it the same rating that I gave Histosortal. I gave it a 4.5 because there were some things. And again, I don't think it's them being out of character, but there was a lot of plot leaps in this one that my brain was like, okay, you can take me along with you to a certain point, but then I gotta tap out there. So yeah, but I still really liked it. It was very sexy. We have a plus size heroine. There are toys used in this one. There's some really good like breeding kink happening. He also is pierced. He has a pierced dick. Yeah, those are the good ones there. Those are the good ones that we have. Yes. Okay, so that was that one. And then I just finished rereading Bull Rush by Maggie Rodden. I have an ALC of this one, and I've talked about this one so many times, but this is a second chance romance with this couple that discovers they're still married. They thought they were legally divorced, but when he's getting out of prison for a manslaughter charge, and she's going to be getting married to someone else, and she is trying to get a loan for their business. They both discover they're still married, and Ramsey decides to take this as a thing of like, I'm not giving up yet. We're not legally married, so I think I have a chance. And he basically offers money in exchange for her giving him a certain amount of time to make him fall back in love with her. And her dumbass fiance is okay with it. So do we really trust this guy? No. But yeah, I'm enjoying rereading this. And it is being duet narrated by Aiden Snow and Elena Wolf. Now, I want to say something. When you listen to this and you hear the female narrator, and you're going to be like, I thought this is this person. This is a student. This narrator has multiple pseudonyms. So make sure you use the one that they're asking you to use for this, because the reason would be is this is a dark romance, whereas that narrator has different narration names for others. But I will say it did catch me because I didn't look at what the names were. And I was filling out my thing, and I saw someone else had written Elena Snow, or not Elena Snow, it's Aiden Snow and Elena Wolf. And I was like, huh? But that's not the voice I'm hearing. Well, it's because that narrator uses multiple names, and this one is for a dark romance. So, but it is someone that I know and like, and you may also feel that way when you listen to it. So anyway, that one, a re-listen for me, of course. This one is a 4.5. The narration definitely bumped it up a little bit. I think I gave this a 4 the first time, and it's probably at like a 4.5 now because the narration's really, really good. But this one has breeding kinks, CNC, sex toys, some spitting, implant play. This one has a lot of hot stuff in it, so highly recommend it. But there you go. Those are the books that I read and listened to this week. And again, if you're still watching and you haven't commented yet, please do that. If you're watching me on your TV, please at least give this a like. You can just click down on your remote and click over by my face and give it a thumbs up. I know I watch lots of these on TV and I always forget to comment or do that, but it really does help out the channel, so please do that. And yeah, again, I hope you had a great Easter or a great Sunday, and we'll see you next time. Bye.